Liam stood at the edge of the glowing chamber, with dust on his boots, and wonder in his eyes. The place was silent, but not dead. It felt like the walls were watching him, like something inside was holding its breath, waiting for someone to walk in and disturb the sleep of 1,000 years. His team had come to this moon for repairs and salvage, but no one expected to find something like this behind him. Ziva stood tense, her silver skin shining under the low light, her eyes wide with fear and warning. She told him it was sacred, told him it was forbidden. She said the armor belonged to her people's first warrior, the one who led them through the great fire, the one who vanished before time was counted. Liam grinned. He had never cared much for rules, especially alien ones. He stepped forward slowly, his boots making soft prints in the golden dust. The armor floated in the center of the room, its plates sharp and smooth, its chest piece pulsing faintly with a blue light that seemed to match the beat of his own heart. "Don't touch it," Ziva whispered again, but her voice was too soft and too late. Liam reached out his hand, and the armor moved. It opened like it had been waiting for him. Its pieces stretched and turned and then wrapped around his body in one quick motion before he could pull back, before he could think. The room shook, light flared, the floor cracked beneath his feet, and the air filled with a sound like thunder rolling through stone. Ziva screamed, and others came running from the hall. The guards raised weapons, shouts filled the room, but none of it mattered because Liam was standing in the center of it all, glowing brighter than any lamp. He could feel the armor breathing around him, not just a suit, not just metal. It was alive, or something close to it. It held tight to his chest, to his arms, to his legs, but it did not crush him. It carried him. He looked down at his hands. They were not his hands. They were covered in golden energy, and small lines of light flowed along the edges like veins. The helmet closed over his head, and for a moment he could see everything. He saw the room, not with his eyes, but with something else. He saw the cracks in the wall, the weapons, the people. He saw Ziva, her heartbeat fast, her face full of shock, and something else, something like Liam, took a step forward. The armor responded like it had always known how to move with him, like it had waited for someone just like him. One of the guards aimed a blaster. Liam turned without thinking, and the armor sent out a shield of light. It hit the wall like a wave, making a loud hum, and the weapon flew from the guard's hand without hurting anyone. The room went still. Vo moved closer, her voice shaking. She said, "This is not possible. This armor has never moved for anyone, not in 500 years, not even for our strongest." Liam tried to take off the armor, but it did not respond. He pulled at the edges, but they did not move. He spoke, and the armor did not answer. But he felt something deep inside it, something waking up, something very old and very powerful. One of the alien elders stepped forward, his robes brushing the floor. His eyes narrowed. He said the old words, the ones meant to test the chosen warrior. He waited for the armor to reject Liam, to shut down, or fall to pieces, but it did not. Instead, the light grew stronger, and Liam's feet rose off the ground, only a little, just enough to show that gravity no longer mattered. The elder stepped back, eyes wide, lips tight. He turned to the others and whispered the old lines of the prophecy. "The outsider who wears the light shall open the gates of power." Liam did not hear the words, but he felt the room change. He felt eyes on him, not with fear now, but with a kind of belief. Ziva reached out her hand slowly and touched the edge of the armor. It hummed softly under her fingers, warm like skin, not cold like metal. Liam looked at her and laughed, nervous, confused, not sure if this was the best thing or the worst thing that ever happened to him. He tried again to remove the armor, and this time a voice spoke, not out loud, but inside his head. It said, "You are seen, you are tested, you are chosen." Liam froze. The voice was calm and strong and endless, like wind on mountains, like the deep sea. It did not sound human. It did not sound alien. It sounded like the armor itself. The lights dimmed the chamber, cooled the armor, settled, its glow steady and quiet now, but still very much alive. No one spoke. The room stayed quiet. The dust still floated in the air like stars around him. Liam knew he had just changed everything forever. Liam sat on the edge of the silver bed with his arms resting heavy across his knees. The armor still clung to his skin like a second body, and no matter how hard he pulled or twisted or shouted, it refused to come off. The room was round with no corners, just a dome of smooth stone, and a single blue light that pulsed like a heart above his head. The aliens had locked him here, not out of anger, but out of fear. Outside, the guards stood still, their black armor hiding every part of them, their long rifles pointed at the floor but ready. Ziva had stayed by the door for hours, refusing food, refusing orders, just standing there watching, listening, hoping the armor would let go of him. But it didn't. Inside the armor, Liam felt something move, not metal, not gears, but something like thoughts or memories, soft whispers, like voices trapped in fog. They did not speak in words but in feelings, fear, rage, pain, honor, joy. He leaned back and closed his eyes, and the whispers grew louder. He saw flashes of battles. Fire raining from skies, mountains breaking under strange machines, tall warriors standing in rows with blades, made of light and floating shields, singing with power, and always the armor, always glowing, always leading. Suddenly, a new voice rose above the others. It was clear, sharp, gentle, and old. It spoke in words, this time words that came not from outside, but from within Liam's mind. "Do not fear the armor. Said you were not meant to wear me, but you were worthy enough to wake me." Liam sat up, eyes wide, heart racing. "What are you?" he asked. Out loud the armor replied, "I am the last memory of the first blade. The guardian of the great fire. I waited through dust, through silence, through time." Liam stood and walked to the center of the room, his reflection shining off the polished wall. He looked like someone else, stronger, older, maybe even dangerous. "Why me?" he asked again. "You stepped forward when no one else dared," the armor answered. "You laughed in the face of power, and power respects courage." The door hissed open, and Ziva stepped in slowly, her hands raised in peace, her face pale with worry. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice soft like wind in deep caves. Liam turned toward her, and the armor moved with him, graceful, quiet, deadly. "I think it's talking to me," he said. Ziva stopped, her eyes wide. "No one has heard the armor speak, not in all our lifetimes. Not even the High Warden. It says, I'm chosen," Liam added. Ziva stepped closer, her hands shaking. She reached out again, and the armor pulsed under her fingers like it remembered her, like it knew her. "Blood. My family kept this place," she whispered. "We guarded the armor for generations, but it never called to us, never opened, never even moved before." Liam could speak again. The armor flared bright, and his vision went dark. The floor vanished, the walls fell away, and he was no longer in the room. He stood in a field of stars. A black sky full of memory shapes flew through space, fire and steel and thunder. His hands held a sword of light, and around him others stood tall, wrapped in the same golden armor, all looking to him as if waiting for a command. He tried to speak, but the stars whispered first. "This is not a gift. This is a test. Strength alone means nothing without heart, without truth, without sacrifice." Liam turned to look at the figures beside him, but their faces were hidden behind smooth helmets, all silent, all still. Then the stars faded, and the room returned. Ziva stood close, watching his eyes. "What did you see?" she asked. "Memories," he said, "or something like that." He fell to his knees, breathing hard. The armor felt heavier now, like it had poured old truths into his bones. The door opened again. This time the High Elder entered, his robe dragging across the smooth floor, his face long and full of thought. He carried a staff carved with ancient symbols and eyes that had seen many seasons. He looked at Liam and said, "The armor has chosen you, and by law, you are now a subject of the trial of fire." "What is that?" Liam asked. "It is the old path," the elder said. "A way to prove if the choice was right. If you live, you are guardian. If you fail, the armor returns to silence." Liam looked at Ziva. She said nothing, just stared with wide eyes full of fear and something deeper. "When does it start?" Liam asked. The elder smiled, a sad, tired smile. "It already has." Behind Liam, the armor shimmered. The lights along its surface began to pulse faster, like it knew the clock had begun. And in his chest, Liam felt something shift again. Like a door opening, one he could never close again. The silence after the elder's words felt heavy, like a mountain pressed against the walls. Even the guards outside stopped breathing for a moment. Liam stayed on his knees, the armor tight against his skin, like it was holding him in place, like it was deciding something. Ziva knelt beside him, her hand hovering close, but not touching. He looked at her, and she nodded. Slowly, not in comfort, but in warning. Liam rose. The armor moved with him, like a shadow that had waited a second. "Body, a second." Will the elder turned and left without another word. The guards followed, leaving only Liam and Ziva in the glowing chamber. "What is the trial of fire?" he asked her again, this time his voice calm. To calm, she stood slowly, brushing dust from her knees. She looked at the walls, the floor, the light, and then at him. "It is not a battle," she said. "Not with weapons, not with others. It is a trial of the mind, of the soul. It digs into you and pulls out everything you try to hide." Liam laughed, but it was short and hollow. "Sounds fun," he said. Ziva didn't smile. "No one has passed in generations." A door opened behind them, but not like before. This door was thin and round and shimmered like water. The light from it spilled across the floor, not warm, not cold, just strange. "It is calling," she whispered. Liam walked toward it without knowing why. His feet moved like they had done it before, like the armor knew the way and was guiding him through muscle, through thought, through memory. He stepped into the light and everything vanished. There was no floor, no ceiling, no sky. Just blackness and whispers and 1,000 voices speaking all at once. None of them clear, some of them crying, some screaming, some begging. Liam reached out, but there was nothing. To hold then he saw himself standing across from him, no armor, no light, just Liam, the boy from Earth, the one who laughed too loud, and worked too late, and never took anything seriously. Are not ready, the other Liam said. I didn't choose this, Liam replied. No, but you put it on, you mocked what was sacred though. Voice grew louder, not his own, not the armor, but something deeper, older, maybe the voice of the armor's memory show. Us your truth. The space around him changed. He stood in his childhood home. His mother yelling, his father gone, broken plates on the floor. Do you run from pain? It asked then. The scene changed. He was at school being pushed, being laughed at, his fists clenched, but he turned away. Do you fear your strength? And other shift he was. Older, holding a girl's hand, letting go of it too soon, walking away because it felt safer to lose than to love. Do you fear your heart? The voices pressed in on him, louder, faster. What do you hide? What do you run from? What do you fear? He tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. He fell to his knees, his body shaking, not from the armor, but from inside himself. Then came silence again, deep and full, and wide like space itself. He looked up and saw Ziva standing in front of him, not the real one, a memory maybe, or a guide maybe, both. You are not alone, she said. Liam reached out, and this time his hand didn't pass through her. He felt warmth, calm light. You carry weight now, she said, not just armor, not just power, but trust. Then she was gone. Stood again, and the darkness faded. He was in a desert, now under a green sky, two suns above and far away. He saw fire rising, something large moving toward him, wings, teeth, heat, a beast made of shadow, with eyes like molten stone. It roared, and the sound broke the air. Face it, the voice said. He held out his hand without thinking, and the armor responded. It formed a blade of white light, sharp and long, and full of song. Beast charged, and Liam did not run. He ran forward, the blade high and his heart steady. The creature struck with claws and fire, and Liam moved like the armor had moved before, like he was born for it, like the training had been in his blood. All along he struck once, twice, the beast screamed and vanished. The desert vanished. Two, he stood again in the chamber, where he began. Ziva was still there. The light had changed. It was softer, deeper. The elder returned and saw Liam standing alone, breathing slow, eyes full of something new. He passed Ziva, whispered. The elder said nothing, just looked at Liam with eyes that held no doubt. Now the armor pulsed once, and then went still, but it did not release him. It had accepted him. The trial had ended, but something greater was just beginning. Asterisk. The wind on the surface of the moon was sharp and dry. It carried the scent of metal and ash, and something else, something rotten and old. Liam stood on the ridge above the alien outpost, the armor still wrapped around him like a second skin. Its glow hidden now, dimmed by choice, not by weakness. Behind him, Ziva checked the scanner again, her eyes narrowing as she stared into the data. It's moving, she said. The swarm is not waiting. They are already here. Liam looked down at the valley below. The sky was turning dark, with shapes too far to count, wings, teeth, eyes burning with red light. The swarm had returned, just like the armor warned in his dream, and no one was ready. He stepped forward, the ground crunching under his boots. The armor adjusted to the air, to the weight, to the danger. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. The armor was already preparing. It wrapped him tighter, gave him a shield of light across one arm, and a sword of gold across the other. Elder had begged him to stay hidden, said the chosen warrior must not fight until the council approved, until the prophecy was read, until everything was perfect. But war never waits for perfect. A scream echoed across the valley, sharp and full of fear. The first line of defenders had broken. The swarm was too fast. Too many. Ziva grabbed his arm, her voice shaking. You do not have to do this now, she said. You are not ready. Looked at her, and something inside him settled. I wasn't ready the first time either, but I still woke the armor. He stepped off the ridge and dropped into the valley. The armor caught the fall and turned it into a glide. His feet hit the ground, and dust exploded around him. Creatures turned their heads and saw him. The golden light from his armor burned through the smoke like fire. Through night, the first beast leaped, claws wide, mouth open, and Liam moved before he could think. The sword cut through the air, through flesh, through bone. The creature fell, and another took its place, and another and another. They came at him from every side. The armor moved with him faster than thought, each movement precise, each block perfect, each strike clean. The sword never missed the shield, never cracked, but still they came behind him. More aliens fled, more were cut down. The outpost was falling, the towers burning, the children screaming. Ziva called to him from the ridge, but her voice was lost in the chaos. Liam pushed forward deeper into the swarm, his arms burning, his legs screaming, but the armor did not slow. It hummed louder, it shined brighter. Each time he fought, each time he stood, when others fell, a large beast rose from the ground, black and red, with 6 arms and a spine of fire. It roared and slammed its fists down. The shockwave knocked soldiers flying, but Liam held firm his shield, cracking but not breaking. The beast charged, and Liam ran to meet it. Their weapons collided, and the air rang like a bell. The ground split beneath them, but Liam did not fall. The sword glowed white, now brighter than before, brighter than the sun. Drove the blade into the heart of the beast, and it screamed and burned and vanished into dust silence. Follow the swarm began to retreat, their numbers breaking their courage. Dying, the defenders regrouped. Ziva slid down the ridge and ran to Liam. Her face streaked with tears. "And Dusty were not supposed to survive this," she said. "But I did," he replied. Aliens began to gather around him, some in awe, some in fear. The elders watched from afar, whispering words. He could not hear words like warrior and savior, and Thretsiva took his hand, not in love, not in thanks, but in something stronger. Trust. The armor pulsed again, and Liam felt it speak, not with words but with feeling. This is only the beginning. He looked at the valley around him, full of ash and broken machines and smoke, and hoped they would come again, stronger, smarter. But so would he, and next time he would not be alone. The hall was silent as Liam entered, but every eye turned toward him, heads bowed, not from fear, but from something deeper, a word that had not been spoken for many lifetimes: reverence. The golden armor shimmered softly, no longer glowing bright like in battle, but now quiet as if sleeping, yet it still wrapped him like it belonged. He walked through the great chamber where statues of old warriors stood, carved from black stone. Eyes of silver hands stretched toward the ceiling, as if holding up the stars. Ziva walked beside him, her steps quick, her voice low. "The council waits," she said, "but they do not trust you." "Not yet." Liam gave a small nod. The armor shifted slightly, like it heard her, like it too understood. Inside the council room, 10 seats sat high above the floor, each one filled with a figure wrapped in ancient robes, faces hidden by thin masks, symbols of rank and history and silence. The elder who first spoke of the trial stood in the center, leaning on his staff. He faced the swarm and returned alive. The elder said. Liam said nothing. "You protected our people. You defeated what we feared. You did not wait for our command." Liam looked up and finally spoke. "Would you have rather I waited?" The room was still for a long breath. One of the counselors stood, her mask marked with the crest of the Knowledge Keepers. She stepped forward slowly, her voice smooth and cold. "The armor chooses, but we must decide if its choice serves." Usfeva stepped forward. Before Liam could speak, her voice strong, her eyes bright. "He did not ask for this. He did not beg for power. The armor moved for him, not for us, not for me, not for anyone in this room." The elder raised a hand and silence followed. "He must be tested again," the elder said, "not in fire this time, but in unity. Let him lead a mission, not alone, but with our own warriors. Let us see if he can carry the trust of others, not just the weight of power." Liam turned his head slightly. The armor shifted again, pulsing once, as if it agreed. Later, he sat near the edge of the sky deck, looking out at the stars, the moon base below him, full of quiet repairs and nervous voices. Ziva joined him, holding a small silver box. She opened it and offered him a fruit shaped like a star. It tasted like snow and fire. "Why did you fight that day?" she asked. Sim stared at the sky a long time before answering. "Because I could not watch them." Daishi smiled a little. "That is rare." Here suddenly the air shook, alarms screamed, lights turned. Radar voice echoed through the hall. An identified vessel breaking orbit. Swarm signature confirmed. Liam stood fast, the armor locking into place without a word. On the ground, near the edge of the outer field, the swarm had landed again. This time, smaller, faster, sharper, a test, perhaps, or a warning. Liam ran toward it, not alone this time, but flanked by 6 alien warriors, all armored, all ready. One looked at him with doubt. "You are not one of us," he said. Liam replied, "Then keep up." They entered the field together, blades raised, shields ready. The swarm hissed and rushed, and Liam moved ahead, his steps strong, his eyes focused. This time the armor was faster. It formed new shapes around his arms, new weapons he did not know. He could make a chain of light that cracked like thunder, a shield that bent and rebounded. Force he struck, and spun and blocked. The others followed his rhythm without meaning to. Without plan, they moved like one. Their battle was quick, fierce, loud, and full of smoke. But when it ended, Liam stood at the center, breathing hard, chest rising, eyes sharp. The warriors around him looked at him different now, not with doubt, but with fire. Back at the chamber, the council watched the replay. In silence, "He leads," they whispered. "He listens, he protects." But one voice in the dark said, "He grows too fast." Another replied, "Then we must decide soon if he is a weapon or is storming his chamber." Liam looked in the mirror again, but he did not see the same man who once joked in the dust. He saw something older, not broken, not lost, but sharp. And Zava stood behind him, her voice low. "You are not the same." Liam touched the chest of the armor, felt the soft hum of memory and power. "No," he said. "I am not, and Outside, the stars seemed to move like they too had begun to take notice of the warrior, who was never meant to be asterisk. The sky above the alien moon turned violet as storms rolled in distant thunder crawling across the dark clouds. The towers of the ancient city flickered with power, the light bouncing off Liam's armor as he stood alone. At the edge of the training ground, his blade rested across his back, silent, like the whisper of danger waiting to wake. He had won the last fight, the warriors had followed his lead, the council had started to nod in his direction, but power always draws shadows, and in the dark corners of the city, others had started to speak in low voices. He is not one of us, they said. He does not carry our blood, our name, our pain. He is chosen by a relic, not by our law, not by our trials, and so they planned not openly, not with honor, but with poison in their hearts, and knives behind curtains that night, while the moonlight bled across the floors. Liam lay still in the sleep chamber, the armor peeled back slightly for the first time since it bonded to him. Soft light faded from his chest and the hum of power slowed. Ziva stood watch outside her ears, catching every sound, her hand on her blade, but even she did not hear the three figures slip through the shadows, moving like mist through vents and walls. Cloaked in old tech from the forgotten wars inside the chamber, Liam stirred, his eyes half open. Something felt wrong, like the air was too cold to tight. The armor shivered, then tightened across his chest. The door hissed. Liam sat up just in time to see the blur of metal as a blade swung down toward his throat. The armor moved first, raising a barrier of gold. The weapon struck and bounced, sparks flying across the floors. Ava burst in her blade, high, her cry loud as thunder. She slashed at the nearest figure, who fell back howling. Another aimed a dart at Liam, but the armor absorbed it, melting the tip with a hiss of heat. Liam stood fully awake now, the armor locking back into full form. His blade jumped into his hand without command, and light filled the room. One attacker fell, the second fled, the third hesitated for one breath too long, and Liam knocked him down with a single strike, the light from his weapon pushing the air like a wave. The silence after was deep and sharp. Ziva stood with blood on her cheek, breathing hard, her eyes wide with fury and fear. Who sent them? She asked, her voice cold. The one on the ground said nothing until Liam knelt and pulled off his mask. It was one of the guards from the outer wall, one who had once bowed in respect. Now his eyes were full of hate. The armor should not have chosen you, he spat. Liam stood slowly, his heart calm but heavy. I did not ask for ITU. Were it still the traitor, snapped Ava, called the council, and soon the chamber filled with shouting, questions, orders, confusion, but not all were surprised. Some had expected this, and now they watched Liam, not with doubt, but with calculation. Later, the elder spoke with Liam alone, his voice tired, his hands shaking. Power is not only tested in war, he said, but in peace, in jealousy, in fear. You passed the blade, now you must pass the silence. What does that mean? Liam asked. It means eyes will follow you, waiting for weakness. He walked outside to the training ground where the stars hung low, and the wind carried whispers. Ziva joined him, placing her hand on his shoulder. They fear you now, not because of what you did, but because they saw what you could become. Liam looked at his hand, the armor fading again, leaving his skin bare. Only wanted to help, he said. You did help, she replied, and that is why they trembled him. Next morning, the council announced a mission, one that required the chosen warrior, a mission into the dead zone, where the swarm first woke again, a place full of ruins and danger and answers. Liam accepted, not because he trusted them, but because the armor pulsed with agreement, because he felt a pull like a voice without words saying, go and find the truth. As he left the city, he did not look back, for now he knew something had changed, not just around him, but inside. The armor had protected him, had saved him, and now it had warned him the greatest threat may not come from the stars. It may already walk beside him with a smile and a hidden blade. The air in the dead zone was thick with ash and silence, broken only by the sound of Liam's boots, crushing old bones and broken glass. The ruins around him stretched wide, burned buildings, twisted machines, shattered towers that once touched the sky, all now reduced to dust, and echoes. Eva moved beside him, her steps careful, her eyes alert. Above them, the clouds spun low and heavy, a storm growing darker with every breath. Armor had been quiet since they entered this place, its glow dimmed, its voice silent, but Liam felt something deep in the stone, under their feet, something waiting, something watching. They had come to find what awakened the swarm, what pulled them back from their long sleep, what tied their return to Liam's rise. The old spire stood broken at the top, but still tall enough to reach through the smoke lines of forgotten writing, carved down its sides like veins of memory. Liam raised a hand, the armor responded, forming a path of light across the rubble. Entered the spire and stepped into cold dark Nesta. Walls were alive with old tech lights flickered like dying stars, and symbols danced on the glass windows, images of war, of flames of the same golden armor now wrapped around Liam's body. At the Center of the room, a single orb floated black and red, spinning slowly, its surface covered in cracks and pulsing veins. Ziva drew her blade. The armor flared with sudden warning. "This is it," she said, her voice shaking. Liam stepped closer. The orb trembled. The floor vibrated. The swarm was near. Then the orb cracked open. A shape rose from within, not flesh, not machine, something in between, tall and sharp, its eyes burning like suns. Its voice a low rumble that filled the air like thunder underwater. "You wear the armor of my enemy," it said. Liam raised his weapon. "Where?" "The reason the swarm returned," he said. "I am the memory of their king." The being answered, "I was locked here long ago by the last true warrior. Your armor carries his will, and now his enemy rises through you." Liam looked at Ziva, her hand tight around her blade, her face pale. The being stepped forward, shadows swirling around. "E2 are not their savior, you are their signal, their beacon. When you put on the armor, you called us back." Heart pounded. The armor wrapped tighter. The blade in his hand changed shape, becoming longer, heavier, brighter. Then the creature attacked it. Moved like wind, like shadow, like lightning. It strikes fast and endless, but Liam met each one. The armor, predicting every motion, every angle. Ziva fought beside him, her blade flashing through the dark, their movements like music, like war, made into dance. The floor cracked, the walls screamed. Light and shadow crashed and split. The air. Liam's blade met the creature's core with a flash that blinded the room. The explosion knocked them back. Flames roared through the spire. The creature fell, but the orb still pulsed. "It is not over," Ziva cried. Liam reached for the orb, the armor glowing brighter than ever, not with rage, but with purpose. He placed his hand on it, and the armor spoke once more. "Let memory end, let war sleep, let the line be broken." Light shot through the room. The orb cracked and shattered. The ground shook. The storm outside broke, and the sky cleared. For the first time in centuries, the swarm stopped tall across the moon. The swarm fell silent, then collapsed like puppets with cut strings. Liam dropped to his knees, the armor slowly fading from his body, its glow leaving his skin cool and bare. For the first time since that first moment in the sacred chamber, Ziva caught him, her arms around his shoulders, her voice a whispered, "Stunned." They returned to the city, not as fugitives, not as weapons, but as something more. The council waited in silence. And then they stood and bowed, not just to the armor, not just to the victory, but to the human who chose to rise when all others stood still. The armor was placed in the Hall of Echoes, resting once more, floating in silence, but this time the chamber held no fear. Liam stepped away from it, not with regret, but with peace. Ava walked beside him, her eyes full of something warm. "You are free," she said. He looked at the stars above the city. "Maybe, but freedom comes with a new question. What do I do now?" She smiled. "You live on." So the warrior who slipped into the armor as a joke walked into the dawn, not as a soldier, not as a god, but as a man who chose to stand when the galaxy needed hope the most, and the stars remembered him forever.